Boxcar offers direct luxury commuting service from various areas in New Jersey to the east side of Manhattan. For those of us that have experienced the demise of Penn Station, this is a welcome alternative. With their service, you can pop into the city on one of their luxury buses, which feature free Wi-Fi, a clean restroom, ample legroom, charging stations at each seat, as well as professional chauffeurs to make your daily commute actually enjoyable. For all of our listeners, use code GS25 when you download the app and save $25 on your first commute. Ready to travel into the city in style? Download the app on your personal device or visit their website at www.boxcar.com.
Entrepreneurs and small business owners, are you feeling overwhelmed by lack of capital, growth challenges, or personal branding? You are not alone. UCS Advisors is here for you. We're professional capital raising advisors committed to helping you secure funding and grow your business. Are you ready to impress investors? Check your investor readiness with our free 45-second quiz at ucsquiz.com. We believe in you. Visit ucsquiz.com and start your success journey. And remember, always be willing to achieve your greatness.
Just a little under an hour until I hit the stage for another show. Driving on this road feels like forever. Knowing I'm gone.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings to the Garden State. I'm your host, Mike Ham. We are here in Jackson, New Jersey with Jackson Pines, Joe Makoviecki, and James Black. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course, yeah. So we're here out at James, your house.
Yep.
Yeah, and what is this thing that this basically like a lean-to almost?
It's kind of like a bored COVID project.
Yeah.
I started actually right before, but and then once everything shut down, nobody was coming around. I was like, well, I got to do something. So
Yeah.
and it couldn't get a garden going. It was Well, I think I started in January and then March, but I really got it going. But yeah, it's kind of just like a hangout. I got a grill under here somewhere to get out of the rain, and we do practice under here in the summer when it's nice out, and have parties and somewhere to keep everybody out of the house so they don't make a mess in there, so they can hang out here.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of like walking through, getting like a house tour, basically, because you guys practice here and record here, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's so many spots that I feel like are the vibe of Jackson Pines in this whole place. But at the same time, like this just seemed like a good spot. We got daylight. It's nice out. You built it for outdoor stuff, and like, why not do it here?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's for. I mean, like you said, we have people over. We'll just hang out here like this, or we've written like some of our songs here. One of our tunes, Anna Lee, we wrote right here one time. We were hanging out on a night like this, like a random weeknight.
Yeah.
And also we filmed a video here a couple of years ago, like a whole 25-minute short set, like a couple cameras, full audio quality mixing. But also just when we have he makes like some pancakes in the morning, or we have like some of the food that he's gathered or hunted over the last couple months. We'll be out here, Yeah. And, so it's a natural place for us to do it, even though there are cool spots in this facility, which is James's house, and we call it the Bog House because that's what it says in this little piece of slate or this piece of stone. It's right on the pediment of his steps when you walk up to his porch. What does it say? 1936?
36 or 32 or something.
There's still pretty old, regardless. Yeah.
There is still, it's not functional, but there's a cranberry bog in the back, and this house was a home for the workers. It was a lot smaller back then.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, so, I mean, I love the vibe, and we were joking around because earlier today, my girlfriend, Chrissy, hey, babe, how you doing?
Hey.
We were in Camden recording an episode, and then we came here, and there's not many places you can go. Jersey is special in that way because we just drove an hour from Camden to here, and it is like two different worlds, like different states, different, parts of the country almost, but it's just part of the same state, which I think is really cool. But so we're here. So we're going to learn a little bit about you guys. So Joe, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure.
Since we just talked all about James's house. So you guys are both Jersey born and raised, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We're from this town. This is our hometown, Jackson, New Jersey. Lived here until I was 18. And then spent a lot of time in the town next door as well, in my 20s, another 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And I'm here almost every week, at least once, whether we're gigging or playing or doing something else.
Sure. And James, same for you, right?
Yeah, yep. I grew up 5 minutes down the road, and
Eventually moved 5 minutes down the road.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now I'm here.
Yeah. So what do you guys do full time? Because I think that's interesting too, because we've had a bunch of musicians on the show. I'm always interested to see kind of how they like work through their, supplement the stuff that they do, that they're like their passions and all that kind of stuff. Like I have a full-time job. This is not what I do full-time, even though I kind of do. But yeah, like tell me about kind of like what you guys do with that.
Like, what are the different hustles? Like,
Yeah.
We've been playing shows together, me and James, for now about 13 years, going on 14 years. And luckily for a lot of that time, we were able to play shows really with the pandemic breaking it up only for like a year or two right there, mainly playing shows together. But, for me, I'm a music teacher as well.
Okay.
I do some freelance writing, which is mainly just about music as well. And I also I'm a songwriter for this company from Chicago. And I create like songs and content and like write for them on like a, freelance kind of basis. And cobble together that with a lot of other kind of private teaching and group like songwriting groups and stuff. And just kind of create like this quilt out of all these different kind of things that get me through from gig to gig, which is like the other half of the main thing that I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've just been lucky enough to find a lot of organizations and clients and people who are willing to work with me, whether it be in a teaching, a student type thing,
Sure.
or whether it's a collaboration type thing. I also like, work in studios and record on people's albums. But mainly like day in, day out, I'm on Zoom ever since the pandemic, teaching people how to finger pick and how to write songs on the internet.
Right.
It's the main hustle, believe
That's
me.
cool.
And writing songs for that company. Yeah. And then James has like a more traditional job.
Yeah, we have a family welding business, and we're contracted to a sand company, so we fix all anything that breaks pretty much Monday to Friday, and then on the weekends we'll go we have a welding shop down the road, so we'll go in there after work some days or on the weekends and fix smaller stuff like somebody's mailbox post or whatever,
Yeah,
But,
cool.
James is the hardest working guy I personally know.
Yeah.
Like he's like waking up like since we were like 18 and we would all be sleeping until 1 p.m. because we played a show in Asbury Park till 2 a.m. He would get home at 3 a.m, but still have to wake up at 5 and go like right over there to Clayton.
Yeah, and do real work.
Even at age like 18, 19 and still does to this day. But the thing that's cool about it too though is whenever we would have to go on a trip, like whenever we had to go to Nashville, go to New Orleans, or go to like Maine, his dad would like be like, follow your thing, like what he always let you do it, but you'd always come back and could be at 5 a.m. as soon as you were home the next day.
Yeah.
So
it's my parents' fault I play music, so they're definitely very supportive, of if I got to take off a week or two or whatever, go do your thing. And so that's a huge thing on my side.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about that, because obviously like music obviously is something that's incredibly important to both of you. Just talk about how your parents got you into it. Your whole life essentially revolves around music. So tell me, like, was that something that had been ingrained in you from a kid? Like, were your parents into music? Was it like a family thing? Like, how did you guys kind of get into it? And then we'll eventually get to how you guys became friends and then started the band and all that.
yeah, my dad, Tom Makoviecki, he was a music teacher. He was a middle school band director and then gigged in like, soul horn bands on the Jersey Shore, like in Asbury and Long Branch and like New Brunswick and Sayreville back in the late 70s, early 80s. So like when I was born, my crib was put in his music room. And I just kind of was like, from there on out, it just kind of rolled. I started singing when I was 3, wanted to be a musician, became obsessed with like, believe it or not, Phil Collins and like, James Brown. That's what my dad was into as a horn player. And it just went from there. Taught myself how to play guitar. After his best friend and guitar player gave me 2 or 3 lessons when I was like 10. Started learning off the internet when I was 11, printing out sheets and going in the attic at my dad's house, which was in Fairhaven, New Jersey, and learned how to play guitar over that like 2 summers. By the time I was 12, started writing my own songs and started playing with people in this town. The thing about Jackson, and a lot of towns around this town had it, and a lot of towns in Jersey had it at this time. There was in North Jersey, so many scenes, but in Jackson and Howell and New Egypt and Freehold, when we were like 12 to 14, there was like 100 different bands and like 5 VFWs and church halls every weekend where your friends would play or you yourself would have a show, even if you played at noon. And some big band, which now you think back, they're just like dudes in a van, but when you were 13, this band like Folly came through, like all these big bands, Armor for Sleep came through. How many people came through those scenes?
Hawthorne Heights, right? That was a big.
They played in our friend's backyard, and they didn't even think it was a backyard until they got there. All these things happened.
I love that.
And it kind of just like all of a sudden I was like, well, now it makes perfect sense. I'm playing guitar. There's places to play, and just haven't really looked back since, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And you started real young too.
Yeah, I think I was like 12, 13. I didn't want to play sports, so my mom said I had to do something. So I got an instrument. I started with flute, clarinet, and that didn't last too long. But then my neighbors through the woods, they had an old chicken coop. They had a drum kit in there and some old guitars they brought and whatever. So we would just go over there and start jamming out. And they needed a bass player. So I got an old cheap bass and just started jamming with them and kind of went from there. And
Like a bass guitar or like an upright bass like I saw you bring out before?
no, an electric bass.
Okay.
Yeah, I started on electric, and then I've been playing the upright probably about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago now.
Yeah. So you guys, like, I mean, you have a guitar out. You brought the bass out.
Yep.
Do you guys play other stuff? I'm sure you do, right?
Yeah, I mean, I started out wanting to be a drummer, and my dad got me a snare drum and said, if you practice enough, I'll get you each piece one at a time of a drum set. But if you don't practice enough, I'm just going to leave you with the snare drum.
Yeah.
Needless to say, that's all he ever bought me. So then this was my sister's guitar. He bought this for my sister in the 90s, and it's from the early 80s. And basically, I started practicing that and actually learned it and picked it up. And he bought me my first electric guitar, and I was like 8. I started playing songs with him. He was a piano player and an organist besides being a sax player, and just kind of picked it up kind of rather quickly over the course of 2 years, which I guess doesn't sound so quick, but when it comes to music, it does take that long sometimes to like learn what you're doing.
Yeah.
But, I started kind of actually on electric guitar, kind of like he started on electric bass, which is really common for kids, especially growing up when we did in America, that era. Now a lot of kids learn to play music on a laptop or iPad or like a keyboard, they're all cool. I think they're all equally valid instruments. I would even argue iPad's a folk instrument, but that's for a different conversation and podcast.
You guys really diving into the folk thing. Yeah.
Well, it's like, that's where we live. That's what we think about
exactly.
the whole time.
Yeah.
But, basically from that time on though, playing shows at age like 12, like when were you in the first show you played live? How old were you?
Probably 12, 13.
I was 13 for sure.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do that everywhere.
Yeah.
But Jersey had this amazing scene at that time. And again, it doesn't matter if you were in Jackson or you could have been up in like Madison, New Jersey, up north, in central Jersey. New Brunswick obviously had a huge scene even there, and there's so much going on. So we just kind of came up in that DIY spirit. And that's kind of maybe one of the reasons we still do it today is because it was always bands just doing it themselves, no matter what.
Yeah.
And just, not relying on anyone else to put your music out or to get you shows, and you just do it your own way, which I think is kind of like a Jersey aesthetic in and outside of music.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with that. So obviously you guys like grew up in the same town. Like when did you start playing together? And then I guess eventually form this particular band?
Yeah. So when we were in high school, I was in a band called the Boy Judas, and he was in a band called Mad Feather Group, and we were all really, really close friends. This group of friends is so tight. We hung out all the time, like in some combination almost every day for like 2 years, 3 years, age like 18, 19, 20. And we played shows at the Stone Pony, but we'd also play like at pizza places on Route 9, like weird stuff. Like we'd be like, pizzeria would say, you want to play? We'd say, yeah. And then we'd bring in kids, and then kids would bring 30s, and we'd all get kicked out, being like 30 racks of beer. I mean,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
and like, we did so much stuff like that. And we just became really close friends through that kind of thing. But we always were like peripherally friends around Jackson, of course. And then it wasn't until both of those bands kind of broke up or moved on or changed that we started playing in the same band together in like 2010.
Yeah.
And that's when me and 2 of my friends it was the first time I was in a folk band. So I was always in indie rock bands, playing electric guitar or keyboards. And then I was going to college in New York City, and we were really into folk music, and we were really interested in like, who did Bob Dylan listen to? Like, we liked Bob Dylan, but like, who did Joan Baez listen to?
Yeah.
Like, who are the people that they were influenced by? And that's how we discovered like Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger and Leadbelly, all these old folk musicians from the 30s and 40s that we started learning their songs. And just being 2 guitar players and a banjo player is cool, but we realized that bands we were busking in Manhattan and in the subway. We were like, bands with a bass player get a lot more attention. Like, so we knew James was a great punk and a great indie rock bass player, and we said like, hey, would you want to jam with us? And if so, would you be down to maybe learn stand-up bass? And he kind of, you taught it to yourself. How'd you do that?
Yeah, our buddy Matt Brown, he had one in his house for years. I remember messing around with it a few times. It was pretty crappy bass. I think it was like a musician's friend, like
Special.
like Christmas special or something,
Got the job done.
He had it for years, and I would fool around a little bit, and then they asked me, if he can play upright bass. I was like, I'll give it a shot, and Matt actually gave me that bass, and it stunk, but I mean, it got me through at least probably 2 years. I think I used that, and it got me to learn because the fingers are a little different. It's the frets are way more wide, and just get used to it. So that helped me get going, and then our buddy Jim Doyle gave me another bass, which is kind of like a step up from there. And then I got another one down the road. So it's all just a lot of people helped us out a lot. And but that's how I started with that. I'm still kind of figuring it out. It's kind of tricky.
Yeah,
it's temperamental.
So I love your answers because you give me like great segues into like next questions. So let's talk about, because you said people kind of like helping you along the way. Like, how's that? Like, talk to me about the support system that you guys have around you now, because obviously, like, you're essentially like an indie band, right, from New Jersey, and you're a folk band, which is not something that people normally think of when they think of like Jersey music.
Right,
it wouldn't be the first thing that comes to your mind.
Oh, of course.
But obviously, like, you guys do it. You do it well. You have some street cred when it comes to like bands in the state. So talk to me about like the support system that you guys have, and like, starting, we'll just take Jackson Pines just, because that's what we're here to talk about. So like when you start the band and kind of like, people that were kind of like pushing you, supporting you and all that kind of stuff, and how important that was to where you are now.
Yeah. I mean, going back through like the whole journey of being in bands with me and James have been in the same band. It's been 2 bands over the last, honestly, it's been like the last 12, 13 years. But when we were first starting out and really getting that push that propelled us to where we are now, got to shout out, our buddy Big Tom O'Gara and DB and Rosa, who really supported us in the beginning by giving us a place to practice when we were kind of reaching the age, and I'm talking like 21, 22, where we were always allowed to practice in their welding shop at James's parents' house. It's not that we weren't allowed, but there was a time where like certain other people's parents in the band were wondering, like, you guys are like playing, like you're practicing songs, like you're 21, 22, like not everyone in the band had full-time jobs. He did, but not everyone did. And we're wondering like, why are you guys like playing songs instead of like figuring out like what you're supposed to be doing? And they kind of gave us a place to hang out. It was in New Egypt, and it was our one of our best friends' dad and stepmom's place. We really learned how to play together folk music in their backyard over the years. Then we had friends that were the Asburys that lived in Jackson, and they gave us the very first house concert venue we ever experienced. We played some house concerts out in the world as this band, and they were the ones like, let's do it in our hometown. We'll invite people to play with you, and you can be the headlining band. And we learned how to do that circuit, because that is one of the, it's kind of like a secret underground world, but some musicians are not signed and are not, don't have a booking agent and never play in the venues like the Stone Pony or the Saint, although I love those and we play there. Some people just do this house concert scene and they survive completely, just their whole career off of that.
Yeah.
We're not exactly that kind of band, but we're the kind of band that does that, 20 times a year back in the day. Now we're dipping our toes back into it now that things are coming back.
Yeah.
There's just so much variation in the scene. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's like a big important thing too, because obviously like you have to support yourself,
right?
But then doing something like this where it's like it's not an easy thing to do. Like any type of art or whatever is like a difficult thing to get from A to B and like get it the right way and have a good support system around you to kind of do that.
Yeah.
So talk to me about like the stuff that you have out now, and this will kind of lead into our break, and then we'll do like a little music before we start segment 2. So how many songs do you have out now? And like what are some things that you're really proud of out of that catalog so far?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I can't even think in my head how many songs we've actually released. It's not like an unfathomable number.
Sure.
But we have right now 2 full lengths, 2 EPs, and then a new full length of folk tunes we put out this year. So that equals about 3 records and 2 shorter records. Altogether on, the streamers and everything where you can access our music, there's probably, I'd venture to say, maybe 50 or 65 songs we put out over the last 5 or 6 years. And we're really proud of all of them as different projects. But to quickly kind of encapsulate it, when this band started, our old band had broken up and kind of disbanded in a peaceful way. People moved away and went to other projects and to pursue other things in different states. So we recorded a record with a producer named Simon Felice, who produced the Lumineers. He used to be in a band called the Felice Brothers that really was a huge influence on us when we were in high school and still is to this day. So we went up to the Catskills and recorded our first record with him and a bunch of his friends and his brother from the Felice Brothers, and it's called Purgatory Road. And that's the first record we put out, and still it's really special to us, A, because it was the first,
Sure.
but B, because it's still, the songs on that record are some of our fans and our friends' favorites, like Even When I'm Gone, and songs like Loaded in the Sky, for example, which is one of our tunes that people tend to like call out at shows that we don't normally have planned, and then we'll be like, all right, we'll play it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we just recently put out a record that's very special to us. It's 7 songs, and they're all not our tunes. They're all New Jersey Pine Barrens authentic folk songs that we've not discovered, but we found the resources and the materials and the CDs and the videos of folks playing these songs. And we got the permission from the widow of the guy whose family owned half the tunes because they wrote them in the 40s and the 50s. And some of these very old New Jersey folk songs, which I think stand up to any of the great folk songs from Virginia, Texas, Tennessee, name it, any state that have these great songs. We've learned that there really is a New Jersey folk music, and it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's a really special project too. We recorded it right here in his house, and it's gotten the most, people talking back to us about it and emailing us about it and reaching out about it since our first record that we put out about 6.5 years ago. So it's exciting because it's like not even our own tunes. So we're just proud to be able to keep the Jersey folk song tradition rolling. And we're performing the songs all over. We played at Stockton, Rutgers. We're going to be playing a bunch of shows this summer doing that. And that's not all we do when you see us live. We mainly play original songs. But at certain gigs, like if you see us at a college, we're most likely going to be highlighting that record and talking about it. But at a regular concert, we'll play 10 to 15 songs, and it'll be 4 or 5 of them. And they kind of weave in, though, because we're the ones playing them. We're not traditionalists in that we play the songs exactly like they were originally done 20 years ago. We play them like Jackson Pines, but we stay faithful to the chords, the harmony, and the words. So, yeah, we're just excited to have that out. And finally, our new single is out. So we're pumped about that because we haven't put out a new song in 2 years. So
Yeah.
we'll get to that soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it's really cool, just like you talking about it, because obviously, like, I didn't even realize that. Kind of like an homage, like kind of rekindling of all this old New Jersey, folk music, which most people would have. It's like funny that you say like they're covers, but like I would have ventured to guess like if you go to a college and you're playing these covers, people still may not know exactly what they are, but just kind of like this connection with the history of the music in this state, I think is really cool that you guys highlight, which I think is kind of what I find interesting about you guys as a band, because it's not just like we just play music and this is it, but it's kind of just this all-encompassing kind of thing where not only is it your own stuff, but there's also kind of like this connection to the roots of folk music in New Jersey. Yeah,
because whether we realized it or not, we are part of a tradition of New Jersey folk and country music that has existed for over 150 years, going back to the 1800s. One of the tunes on Pine Barrens Volume 1 is a fiddle tune called Herdman Hymn, and although it's the newest song on the record, it's actually a 21st century fiddle tune. That's the one we decided to play in the old style. And that one, in this town, Jackson, is a park called Kyers Mills. And in the 1850s and 1870s, there were dancing and fiddle contests where people from North Jersey and South Jersey would meet in the middle of the state here and throw down.
I love that you like danced around Central Jersey just like that. That was an interesting thing that you just did.
Oh, I mean, well, that's a different story, but I mean, this is
that is really cool, though.
This is the southernmost part of Central Jersey.
Yeah. Okay. So, or the northernmost part of Southern Jersey,
depending on who you ask.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I love it so far. But we're gonna take our break, and then we'll come back. We're gonna get a little music, and then we'll kind of talk more about what you guys are doing now and all that kind of stuff. Good with that?
Absolutely.
Cool. So this is the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. I'm Mike Ham. We are here in Jackson, New Jersey with Jackson Pines, Joe Makoviecki, and James Black. We'll be right back.
Voted one of the top 100 jazz clubs in the world, Shanghai Jazz in Madison, New Jersey has been entertaining its customers for almost 30 years with world-class live music, great food, and a commitment to hospitality that creates an exceptional atmosphere. Plus, if you're in the mood for a creative cocktail and incredible vibe, be sure to check out Encore Speakeasy, located downstairs in Shanghai Jazz. As one of my favorite restaurants in the area, I personally guarantee you will have a great experience. Check out the music schedule, the menu, or to make a reservation, head to shanghaijazz.com. The Mayo Performing Arts Center is the heart of arts and entertainment in Morristown, New Jersey. MPAC presents over 200 events annually and is home to an innovative children's arts education program. To see MPAC's upcoming schedule of world-class concerts, stand-up comedy, family shows, and more, head to mayoarts.org or just click the link in our show notes.
Hi, it's Brian from Operation K9 Beethoven. In partnership with Greetings from the Garden State podcast, check out our new t-shirt with their logo on it. All sales benefit Operation K9 Beethoven, helping veterans, family members, and first responders one paw at a time. For more information and to buy a shirt, go to OperationK9Beethoven.com.
Goddamn this wheel don't roll anymore. Feel we're always stuck in no time. Hold me, know you will. Anyway, don't let me down. Don't let the whistle whine. Let off the chain for one. Hound dog stepping through southern pines. Let me get what I want. Let me go. Let the wheel roll along. Let it roll down the street. Let the wheel roll. Let it roll right over me. And when the time gets tough, who will speak the silent word? Love you on a rainy day. It'll be me in the storm, babe. And when your eyes went dark, so you didn't have to feel. I only cried because I cared. You were scared, but you spun me. Let it roll right on. Let it just roll to the sea. Let the wheel roll. Let it roll right over me.
So good.
Thank you.
All right, we're back. So that was awesome. So that was your new single, Wheel, right? Which is my new favorite Jackson Pine song. It was Bourdain, actually.
Thank you.
That was my favorite one up until Wheel.
That's one of our favorites, and definitely one of our favorite ones to play live for sure. We were always and still are big fans of his, not just career, but his just joie de vivre and philosophy and whatnot. And when it came to writing a song, we didn't want to write like a ballad directly about him. We could have. I did and threw it out, but we were like, let's write a song about the experience of what it was like just enjoying having him while we had him as a member of the culture.
Yeah.
You know? So that was like our homage, was to do it differently, obliquely.
Right.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big Anthony Bourdain fan. Like, this is, like, I like to think that what I do is kind of like parts unknown light. You know what I mean? Because, like,
it's gonzo journalism for our generation. Exactly. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why we wanted to be part of this too. We like what you do.
For sure. I appreciate that. So talk to me a little bit about Wheel. So what I find impressive, I don't know if that's the right word. Maybe because you had the album of covers come out in between that, but like the first new song of 2 years. So A, what took you so long? And B, talk to me about like the inspiration behind it and kind of like what it means and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, the first thing is, I mean, recording music and putting it out, it's kind of amazing we can continue to do it at all the way that, you know, industry is and the way life goes. But I mean, we make a solid plan to continue to create music. Whether or not we're always recording and releasing it is one thing, but it takes a while sometimes for us to want to put something out too. Like we could put something out all the time of a lower quality, meaning not just like, all right, art, but I mean like sonic quality too. And like people you want to work with aren't always available. COVID was a big thing. I mean, you know, the pandemic, we probably would have had one more record in this time period.
Sure.
But to record our last full length, which was called Close to Home, it took, you know, a whole year of the pandemic. Then after Christmas of 2020, everyone in our band at the time, our backing band too, which we, you know, quickly to explain, we're almost always me and James. Sometimes we're just a duo very often. That's how we started. This is the nucleus of Jackson Pines, but we often have a backing band as well. Most often Cranston Dean on drums and vocals and mandolin, who is a great singer-songwriter in his own right. But everyone decided to quarantine and test, and then we recorded here in this house because at that time it was the only way to record. All the studios were closed.
Yeah.
So that put a little wrench in the gears for time. But basically, for Wheel, we wanted to come back with a song that we felt really strongly about, meaning that when we play it, it feels really, really good. We really strongly believe in like the music, not just the lyrics. Some of our music, and in the beginning too, is very lyrically based, and the music does serve stories in our lyrics a lot. But I feel like Wheel is the right energy to say like, okay, it's been 2 years. Our last album we purposely put out before we played the biggest show and biggest festival of our lives.
Yeah.
So that album is purposely a more live sounding full band, rockin', electric guitars, drums, because we knew we had to play a big stage for the first time ever of that size at See Here Now, which we were lucky enough to be asked to play.
Sick. Yeah.
And so we made a record that was like that stage sound worthy, meaning more electric guitar, more drums. So this record's going to be a little bit more of swinging back to that like singer-songwriter style on our first album, Purgatory Road, still with drums and full band, as Wheel shows.
Yeah.
But it's more focused on the emotion and impact of the rhythm.
Yeah.
And I think that's why me and James, like playing with him for as long as I have, it's been such a successful partnership musically, because James just has such a natural sense of rhythm, but also of melody in his own bass playing that you'll hear when you listen to it. And I think he could speak to what he's doing. But, you know, that's like what gives Wheel its sound is when I sing and when James plays the bass.
Yeah.
Someone asked a couple months ago, what is the sound of Jackson Pines? And I said, it's the sound of James's bass and my voice. Everything else is secondary, but it's his bass and my voice, and then the other stuff we decorate it with. But, you know, how do you approach when you're playing a song like Wheel? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, it's just kind of, I play by ear, you know, I can't really read music. I mean, I can to a very small extent, but it's all ear, you know. I grew up, I'd put on like my favorite like Rancid CD and I'd try and play along to the bass or whatever. So that's kind of how I learn. I still do to this day. So Joe send me a song or play a song and I'll listen to it a number of times and determine if it needs like some fancy stuff or just to kind of lay back and let the song speak for itself, or because I don't know, you gotta like toe the line with the bass. You don't want it like I listen to like Neil Young's Harvest album and the bass on that album. I'm like, it's there, but it's not like in your face doing like crazy, like, like, so you gotta, I don't know. That's just depend. You gotta let the song tell you, kind of direct you, and then go from there.
Yeah.
So.
That's interesting because yesterday, so this episode, when this episode comes out, the episode with Reese Van Riper would have come out 2 weeks prior.
He's great.
He's awesome. Such a character too, which was a lot of fun. But also like a Jersey swamp rock kind of guy that like, again, a very similar, not similar type of music, but a type of music that one would not think would come from a state like New Jersey.
Right.
But he also can't read music, which I always think is very interesting because it's just like the way that your brain kind of operates and like picks things up and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's very interesting and really cool.
You don't have to read music to be a great musician.
Yeah.
I know equally as many musicians that read sheet and are great musicians in what they do.
Yeah.
But I know way more musicians, believe it or not, I like what they do more, the ones that don't actually know what they're doing and just do it by ear. That's probably why we play with people who play by ear. I largely do too. I'm no reading genius. I played trombone in high school for years and my dad was a reader, but like a song of ours in a book is lyrics and chords. And we can both look at that and play the whole song and then learn it and figure out what it is.
Right.
So, that's always been our technique. And by ear is the folk tradition as well. That's how people didn't learn by traditional classical lessons. They learned by listening to a person down the street who played fiddle. And we're starting to get the wonderful frogs around here right now, which sounds beautiful.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a great touch to what we're doing. Talk to me about playing See Here Now, because like that's a huge music festival in Asbury Park, like on the beach.
Yeah.
And then you guys was this past year?
It was 2021.
Okay, so 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And your first time as a part of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Talk to me like what that experience was like, obviously coming out of, COVID and all that kind of stuff, and to do like this big type thing down there. Like I've always wanted to go. It just hasn't been in the cards yet. But definitely it seems like a cool experience for you guys.
When the lineup suits your fancy, right, go, because it is awesome and it's one of the best festivals in the world. I'm not just saying that because we played it, because we've been to a lot of different festivals as attendees. We've played a couple festivals, a good 20 to 40 pretty good festivals over the year in small stages.
Yeah.
But, we've seen a lot of different stuff. But it was the biggest show of our life then and to this day still. I mean, it's going to be hard to top. It was the greatest day of my musical journey and experience. I think you might say the same thing. We were the first band to play on the first day, maybe second, but like right when it kicked off. We got to open that day. It was Pearl Jam and the Avett Brothers and Dr. Dog we played for right
Billy
before.
Idol, right?
Billy Idol was the next day, but it was the whole, but like that, the Dr. Dog played like right after us on the same stage, which like always was big fans of. It was a really, really amazing experience. So we found out about the gig. They want us to play 2020. So it was January. They asked us and we said yes. And then the world closed down. We thought maybe we'd never get the chance to do it.
Yeah.
So even after all that, it was even sweeter. Like I said, we recorded a record in James's house in January, February of 2021, knowing See Here Now is coming. So we were like, we got to have what we always do. But we also have to have some songs that are like us, but are a little more like we shined a spotlight against the wall and made our shadow look a little bigger.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be on this big stage like we've never played before. And it ended up being great. I mean, people in the beginning of a festival, it's hit or miss. You could be playing to a couple hundred people. You'd be playing to nobody. Or in our case, like I think someone said, like the guy who runs it told us we might have played for like 3,000 or 4,000 at one point. Like it's a festival. People are coming and going the whole time. But at the same, maybe the whole time there was a smaller version of that. But at one point we looked up and we're like, wow, this is really, really cool. And it, it really got our name out there even further than it ever was. Still, we hear from people who are like, that's the only time we've ever seen you, but they're still buying our CDs in like Missouri. Maybe they were a Pearl Jam fan. It was the first Pearl Jam concert in like 4 years. Yeah. So maybe they were coming out to see Annie DeFranco in the East Coast. So it was a really, really great experience. And Cranston Dean, to bring him up again, our drummer, joined our band 3 weeks before because our buddy got invited to join a signed band and went on the road. And with 11 days, our buddy Cranston learned a 45, 50-minute set he'd never played before mostly new tunes that were written by a really, really, really good drummer named Santo Rizzo, or one of our best friends. He learned not his parts, but learned how to play the songs his own way. And he got up on that stage and he had our fucking back. I don't know if I can curse, sorry.
We've already done it. So
Okay.
it's a show about people from New Jersey.
Yeah,
So
okay.
obviously there's going to be a couple here and there.
He had our fucking back. And he's been our drummer ever since. And it solidified like what Jackson Pines is now, I think, for the last 2 years, which is just gave us the confidence to do something like make a whole record of songs from the 40s or 1800s, or one of the songs is from the 1450s in England, but was found in New Jersey in the 30s. Interesting. It gave us like confidence to be like, you know what, maybe we can just not even have to always release original songs.
Yeah.
And we got a really great reaction from it, you know? So that's a lot of what See Here Now is like. But also, I could, you know, go to the grave, and if we never play a festival like that again, I'll be happy knowing that we got to be a part of that huge concert. And our set was something that I'm very proud of and still am.
Yeah. So I this is something that I've asked to a bunch of the musicians that we've had so far on the show. So like Reese, Renee Maskin, a few others.
Yeah, we know.
Manny Cabo, who like our theme song is from Manny Cabo. He was on The Voice and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I always find it interesting to kind of like you guys have been doing this for a long time, like since you were kids.
Yep.
Right. And, you know, different bands, different styles, different whatever. You start this band in particular. Obviously, like, that's like a huge moment for you. Like, See Here Now, just like the way that you were talking about it, just like I could feel it in my moments. What are some other moments where you're just like, yo, this is like, we have something here. Like maybe early on where you're just like, something clicks and you're just like, okay, like this has legs. Like this can become something, you know, we just got to keep moving forward with it.
Yeah. So See Here Now was probably the second to most recent one. You know, that was the big thing for us, obviously. And those little things, these big moments are the reason that keep you, you're right, going for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Not giving up or hanging up your hat for another maybe 3 years or 4 years. Or you sit down and realize, like, we're going to do this our whole lives, whether it becomes what you thought when you were 13 or not. We're just going to be musicians who play music and travel the country and release albums and play, you know, very heavily in the region and continue. One that came before that, I would say, is our older band had broken up, and Simon Felice, who I mentioned in the first part, answered a random cold email of ours. And they say don't cold email people, but you know what? Wayne Gretzky, if you don't take the shot, you'll never know.
Yeah.
Probably miss it, but you'll never know.
Right.
You know, like, so he got back to us and was like, yeah, come to the Catskills. I'll produce your first record as a new band. And now we were like, well, we didn't have a name. There was no Jackson Pines when we recorded our first record.
Yeah.
Just me and James. We were playing in Asbury as James and Joe from Thomas Wesley Stern. Like we didn't, they tagged that on so people even knew who the hell we were because the old band wasn't happening anymore. So, you know, we went to the Catskills to record. You know, we just had this amazing experience. It was the Neil Young experience of having a barn with the doors open in the mountains and just recording for 10 days straight, one song a day. And just, you know, what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was surreal, especially because, like you said, though, our old band had ended and we were kind of just like, all right, what the heck happens from here, you know? And then I think it was on my parents' porch one day, he's like, you got to answer your phone. And he called me and said, hey, you want to record an album with Simon Felice? I thought he was kidding, you know.
Or had gone crazy or something.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, but so that was huge. I mean, we went up there and we did that. We stopped at Roy Rogers, got a cheeseburger on the way. And
on the New York Thruway.
Yeah.
Which is a classic Jersey rite of passage, is pulling off at like Newburgh.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's like New York shit, but like that's Jersey shit because it's like, you know, that experience of
Right,
like,
exactly.
because it's so close. Like,
Yeah.
And then just going, and his truck broke down on the way. We had to like
the
go
first
and
time.
buy a Civic. It was just such an experience. And at the end of this record that was made, then 2 weeks later, the Lumineers album went to #1, and he didn't even know that was going to happen yet. And all of a sudden, our record, even though it's still a indie record, it's still not out on label. All of a sudden, it was produced by the #1 producer in the country back then.
Right.
And we were just like, well, I guess we can just put that in our press release because it's true.
100%.
And that's what got us played on XPN in Philly, got us played on WFMU in New Jersey, back onto 90.5 in Monmouth, where got played as an earlier band, but it got us back into people's minds.
Yeah.
That was huge.
playing the barbecue was cool, too. The last night we were there.
We got to play a concert.
Benefit for his friend, right, with cancer. They had a benefit for him. And
We recorded for 10 days over the course of 14 days with them, his producer, And yeah, he played drums and I played guitar. And so all of a sudden,
We played Long May You Run.
we played Long May You Run, and we played What by the Rolling Stones?
Wild Horses.
Wild Horses, at just this local thing. And now all of a sudden I look up at James, and there's video of this somewhere, and we're playing with our high school rock band Hero, playing drums, not just with us. He's singing like he used to in the band, like Levon Helm. Like, we're playing guitar, looking around like, oh my God. And we just recorded a whole record with him.
Yeah.
That was another one. We were like, all right, well, I guess we're not going to quit now. Like, we're going to keep going.
Rachel Yamagata was playing
She was just playing tambourine. Yeah. It was surreal. All these people in the, like, you know, that area, that like Woodstock area, were like around. We're just like, this. So a band from Jersey can really step into the scene, and be treated like a normal person, right? You know? And then one really quick one, the first one that was really the shot of adrenaline that got us out the gate, that led to us, you know, playing together, was we got to play with the folk musician Pete Seeger when we were like 20. Like, this is right at the beginning of me dropping out of college and starting to play folk music. And my dad had passed away, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to keep going to school and just figure something out blindly and with my eyes closed, or if I was going to like let myself just like drown in a river of grief. And our friends, the Bakers, a family, Casey Baker and her parents from Jackson, we hung out with them in Keyport at an open mic back then in 2010 called, it was Espresso Joe's in Keyport, and had a great open mic scene, poetry, music. They said, next week we're going up to Beacon, New York. Do you want to hop in the car with us or find a ride and go chill? And we got to play and meet Pete Seeger, who's this like icon. Like, he was Woody Guthrie's friend, not like, wasn't taught by him, was like his contemporary.
Yeah.
The banjo extraordinaire. And we didn't know him well. We only met him a handful of times. I'm not going to blow it out of proportion and make it seem like something it wasn't. But the times we got to meet him and play with him, it changed my life. It's when I decided I'm going to drop out of school and start playing music full time, like I always dreamt of in high school, but really do it with our friends. And we bought a van, and James joined the band, and then he started coming up to Beacon with us. And you got some amazing Pete Seeger stories. You can just tell.
Yeah, we had some good interactions, but yeah, it was. They have like a, what was it, like a bring your own meal kind of thing.
It was
like
a potluck and a circle of song that would happen after an environmentalism meeting they would have every month for the Sloop Clearwater.
Yeah, he would always come in with this big bowl of salad. It was like, no joke, like 3 foot wide salad bowl and like a foot deep kind of thing. But, and it was in the winter time, and they plowed a big snow bank up against the building, kind of between like the building and the parking lot. And I was standing out back, kind of by the back door, and you could see the parking lot. And all I see is this big salad bowl like floating over this like plowed up mountain of snow. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And it's Pete Seeger like holding this big thing, and he's just like trying to get over this hill. So I run over there and I grab the thing from him. He's like, oh, thank you. He's like, you know, sometimes a man needs a hand. And he just like, and his wife was his wife Toshi was right behind him, right in tow. And then so that was cool. But yeah, I remember sitting right on the Hudson River with him, just watching the sun go down. So it was pretty surreal.
That's really cool.
And the thing was, we knew how important he was to American music history and folk history, and also like the civil rights movement. Like, he was there. He's like actually more like Forrest Gump than Forrest Gump. He pops up all over. It's insane. But we learned more after that. Like, we were 20 at that moment. Then we were like 22, 23, 24, and we started really to be like, wow.
Didn't Springsteen do like a whole Seeger Sessions album?
Yep.
Where he just like you know, covered all Pete Seeger songs.
He played some of Pete Seeger's songs were original. Many of them, what Pete did was play other people's songs too. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why we do that with our new record, is because Pete's main thing was he made other people's songs famous, because he'd say, this is my favorite song, and play it. But yeah, he had originals, and it's called the Bruce album is
I think it's called
Seeger Sessions.
the Seeger you said the Seeger Sessions is it's all these folk songs and like 5-6 of Pete's originals.
Yeah.
And it kind of was almost right after that time when we first met him. So it's sort of a weird thing. Like, he was back in like the zeitgeist, and we just happened to run into him, you know, a couple times. But just those little moments, you know, again, like, we weren't best friends with him. He sang with us once. There's a video on YouTube you can find where actually we put it as a reel on our Instagram recently, where he joined us. And Pete sang with us, which again is not unique. He sang, his whole thing was he would get whole rooms to sing, But when he did it with us, it just like for the first time in ages, I could see like, oh, there's a third way out of this weird time I was in of grief. And ever since, we've been playing together and in the same band, and taken us all over the country a couple times, and it's taken us to England and Ireland once, and hopefully go back soon. And just, the road keeps going out ahead of us. So
Absolutely.
it's kind of crazy. But that is the first one, and all those moments all keep us from quitting and keep us from giving up over the years, and that's why we're here now. All those little touchstones remind us that, like, it's not about thinking we deserve it or that we're the best. It's just we play music. It's what we love, and you can keep doing it if you don't give up, and you just work as hard as you can and just try to be as good to people as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So we are getting close to the end of this episode, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
But this has been so great. But I do want to ask, because you've had like a lot of stuff come out recently. Like you guys had a whole segment on PBS, right?
It's a full documentary.
Full documentary.
Episode.
Not even just a segment. Excuse me, but yes, I want to make sure I do it justice. But it was so cool. And I was like, all right, well, now they'll be on a bigger show because they'll be on Greetings from the Garden State. But I do think it's really cool because of how much like awareness is around you guys and like what you're doing. And I love the fact that it's like, I said to you before in the first segment, like not just the music, but also just kind of like an appreciation for the culture and the history of folk music, not just in the country, but specifically Jersey. And then all the stuff that you just told me just now, which I think is really cool. But are there things like what's next? Like, obviously, the song that just came out, like kind of like what's kind of on the horizon for you guys? And then, kind of like what goals do you have?
Yeah, well, first off, Wheel is the first single of a new full-length record. It's not recorded yet, but we have most of the songs. We know what they are. We have to record them. But it's an album called Wheel. It's the title track. That's why we released it first. We're going to release a couple more singles. Wheel came out in April, so we're going to put another one out maybe in July, another one maybe in like September, and then like the rest of the album, which is 7 more songs, our 10 best original songs that we have right now that we believe in the most, that we believe in as much as Wheel, that we believe in as much as anything we've put out so far of our original stuff, is going to always be happening in the background over the course of this year. We have a lot of shows coming up in June. I don't know when this airs, but in June we're going to be playing in Northeast PA and Philly, and around Jersey and Asbury Park. We're going to be playing around in New York soon. But also, Pine Barrens Volume 1, because of its very name, it implies a Pine Barrens Volume 2.
Of course.
So we've already begun the planning stages of what are the 7 songs that are going to be Volume 2. We kind of see it as a 3-volume set that'll eventually be like 1 CD that has like all 21 songs. Maybe 1 or 2 vinyls that has all of those.
Yeah.
So right now we're just kind of in a beautiful pattern of recording our new original songs, sort of 2 or 1 at a time. And they're going to come out by the end of this year. And also getting ready for Pine Barrens Volume 2, which is more of this authentic, real traditional folk music from the Pine Barrens of Jersey from between the 40s to the 60s, and some stuff from the 1800s as well. So between that and making some new videos, we're going to be playing live a lot. All over Jersey, of course. Like, we're going to be back at, we didn't mention this yet either, Albert Music Hall is a place that we play about 2-3 times a year. It is the center of New Jersey folk music, bluegrass, and country in the state. And that's one of our big supporters too. You say, like, who in Jackson Pines really support you now? What's your system now? Albert Music Hall is a historical foundation, and they preserve this real history of all these musicians from the Pine Barrens going back to the 40s, not just Merce Ridgway and the Pine Hawkers, who make up most of what our folk record is, but also the Pine Coners. There were so many groups from back in the day. So if anyone in the audience is interested in country, bluegrass, folk music from Jersey, every Saturday of the year, except I think Christmas, but like 50 or 51 weekends of the year on Saturday night in Waretown, New Jersey, right off of Route 9, but also right off the Parkway. In Waretown is a full concert, about 4 or 5 hours every week, and we play there a couple times a year too. So we'll be back there, and that's actually what the PBS documentary is about.
Right.
Is about how we've been playing there for years and how we went back there last year at the end of our first real tour since COVID.
Yeah.
So you can check that out on PBS, their website, or also, our website, jacksonpines.com. You can find everything, our music, our shows, the videos, everything, some of my writing, all the different stuff we have.
Awesome.
to offer.
Yeah. And that's great. And that's perfect, because I was just going to ask if people do want to learn more about you guys. JacksonPines.com is the hub.
That's the hub. You know, in this day and age, we're always pointing people back to the .com now.
Sure.
But of course, we have Instagram, so please add us on there. It helps us, believe it or not, book shows. Facebook, it helps us book shows if you follow us there. We do post on both. And if you're interested in our music, you can stream it on Spotify, Apple, all those things, Tidal. But if you want to help support us, bandcamp.com, or more specifically, jacksonpines.bandcamp.com, which is on our website. So you can buy our CDs, order them directly from us, T-shirts when we have them, or just buy our digital music for your phone or your iPad or your device as well. And later this month in May, or if this comes out in June or in the summer, whenever, by the time you hear this, we will have CDs and special limited edition 10-inch vinyl of Pine Barrens Volume 1.
Sick.
This special folk record that will, when you play it on your vinyl, it'll sound like it's from 1945.
Cool.
Because of the style of vinyl that it is. So we're going to have a release concert for that soon, too, which is unannounced. That's like our next big concert goal. After we play a bunch of our friends' release shows, we'll have our own album release, and you can come check us out in New Jersey when we do.
Great. Awesome. Well, guys, this was so awesome.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate you having me out here to, your house.
Thanks for coming to our part of the state.
Yeah, no, this is great. I mean, I love that. Like, that is the cool thing about doing this show, is that I get to go to places that I otherwise would never go.
Totally.
Like, I would never come visit you, James, outside of just this.
You're always
because I would have never known.
Yeah.
But next time you do one of those pig roasts, let us know, because we'll come down and we'll chill.
Oh, yeah.
We'll bring my smoker. We'll do some fun stuff. We'll have a ball.
You're on the list, man.
Yeah, on the list. I love that. And also, I love the fact that I have a record player. I just don't have enough of a collection, so we'll obviously have to figure something like that out.
Yep.
And then a shirt, 100%. As you can tell, I'm a t-shirt whore. Like, I love t-shirts.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'll definitely get one when you guys do have more. But again, thank you so much for doing this with us today. I'll make sure that I just closed my pad, even though I need that stuff.
Thank you so much for having us, man. It's
Yeah.
a pleasure to have you,
Yeah.
Jackson, and to show you the best side of town.
Yeah. Well, I just closed my pad, so we're just gonna have to do it from brain, which is hard because I never do it from my brain. But here we go. It's right there. So I'll make sure that I put the links, jacksonpines.com, the Instagram handle, everything like that, in the show notes, so people can just go click and check you guys out if they want to.
Sweet.
Again, also, I appreciate playing the song. That was the first ever live music we've done on the podcast, so you guys popped that cherry, which is fantastic. So again, this has been the Greetings from the Garden State podcast. We were here in Jackson, New Jersey with Jackson Pines, Joe Makoviecki, and James Black. I'm Mike Ham. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Stuck to your